Home Studio Start podcast.
Ever find yourself deep into a mix, like hours in, and suddenly everything just sounds wrong? Like what sounded amazing an hour ago is now just muddy. Or maybe your ears feel kind of full, almost muffled.
Oh, yeah, that feeling. And you start second-guessing every single decision you made.
Exactly. Your brilliant mix suddenly feels questionable. If that sounds familiar, then welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting properly informed about audio production.
And today, we are definitely diving deep into something super important for anyone making music at home: preventing ear fatigue.
Yeah, it's this like hidden enemy that can mess up your mixes and honestly your hearing in the long run.
For sure. And our mission today really is to give you a kind of survival kit for those long sessions. We're pulling inside street from Rodrigo Marquez. He's the founder of Home Studio Start and wrote this great guide, the Long Session Survival Guide, Preventing Ear Fatigue. We're going to unpack how you can protect your most valuable tools seriously, your ears, and basically boost your mixing stamina.
So we'll cover, what ear fatigue actually is, how to spot the signs because they can be sneaky. We'll get into practical ways to avoid it, setting up your room right, listening smarter.
Right. And even when it's time to say, okay, I need to see a professional about this.
Definitely. Get ready to protect those ears and make better mixes.
Okay. So ear fatigue. We throw that term around a lot. But what's really happening, like physiologically? Why does it creep up on us, especially when we're really in the zone?
That's a great starting point because it's more than just, my ears feel tired. It's actually a physiological thing. Your whole auditory system, from the eardrum right through to your brain, it gets overworked. And that leads to you not hearing things accurately. The sound perception gets kind of distorted. And the main causes, almost always, it's listening too loud for too long.
Right. Guilty. Yeah, we all are sometimes. That physically strains the little tiny parts in your inner ear. Or it could be focusing super intensely on a really narrow frequency band for ages, like trying to EQ a hi-hat perfectly for 3 hours straight. Your brain just gets exhausted from that focus.
It makes total sense. I can picture doing that, like obsessing over one tiny detail. The guide mentioned someone, Sarah. What was her story?
Yeah, Sarah's story is like classic. She's a home studio producer, spent 6 hours straight trying to get this snare EQ just right, hyper-focused.
Wow, 6 hours.
Yeah, and by hour 5, she said her ears were just shot. That's the word she used, like sonic tunnel vision. So she finishes up, thinks it sounds okay, comes back the next day, fresh ears, realizes she boosted the highs on the snare way too much. It sounded terrible. Just a classic poor mixing decision, purely because her ears, her brain, couldn't process those high frequencies accurately anymore, had to undo a ton of work.
Oof. Okay, so if my ears feel shot, like Sarah's, what are the specific things I should be listening for? Like the actual warning signs?
Good question. Beyond just that fuzzy feeling, there are definite signs. You might get a physical feeling, like fullness or even slight pain in your ears. Things might sound genuinely muffled. And then there's something called a temporary threshold shift.
Threshold shift?
Yeah, it basically means your hearing sensitivity drops temporarily. So you need things to be louder just to hear them at the same perceived level. And that's dangerous, right? Because then you turn it up.
Right, which makes the fatigue worse. Vicious cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you start making those questionable mixed decisions, just like Sarah did. The absolute key takeaway here is recognize these signs. The moment you feel them, stop mixing. Just stop. Your ears will thank you, and honestly, your mixes will too. Pushing through. Never worth it.
Okay, understanding it is one thing. So how do we actually fight back? What are the immediate, practical things we can do right now to stop this from happening?
Right, the battle plan. Think of your ears like muscles, or maybe like processors is better. They need downtime to cool off and reset. So the first thing, and honestly, probably the most important habit, schedule regular breaks. And make them non-negotiable.
Like actually schedule them.
Yes. Rodrigo's guide really hammers this home. 5 to 10 minutes every single hour. Set a timer on your phone. Seriously, even just 5 minutes. Get up, stretch, drink some water, maybe listen to some quiet background noise or nature sounds, anything different. It lets those auditory pathways just recover.
Okay, simple but probably effective. I know it's so hard, though, when you're deep in a creative flow to just stop. Feels like you lose the magic.
I know that feeling well. But the magic you lose from fatigue is way worse.
True. See, what about volume? Because sometimes louder feels clearer, like you can pick out the details better.
That's such a common trap. But mixing louder is actually like a fast track to fatigue. And here's the thing. It often leads to worse mix decisions too. Our ears don't hear all frequencies equally at different volumes.
Ah, the Fletcher-Munson curves thing.
Exactly. At really low or really high volumes, our perception of bass and treble gets skewed. So if you mix super loud, you might cut bass or boost highs in a way that just sounds wrong at normal listening levels.
Okay, so what's the sweet spot then?
Aim for a comfortable level.
Mm.
The classic test is, can you have a normal conversation with someone in the room without raising your voice? If yes, you're probably in a good range. Or get technical. Use an SPL meter app on your phone. There are tons of free ones, and aim for around 75 to 80 dB SPL.
75 to 80 dB. Got it.
That range is generally good for longer listening without instant fatigue, and it helps your mix translate better because our ears are more linear, more accurate at those moderate levels. Quieter is nearly always better for long sessions, less strain.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, EQ. Because, man, I spend hours tweaking frequencies, boosting this, cutting that. How does that intense EQ work play into fatigue? Is it the boosting, the focus?
It's really both. That super narrow focus on one specific frequency band, even if the overall volume isn't crazy high, is tiring. You're making your auditory system do some serious microanalysis.
Right.
And yet, constantly boosting frequencies, especially harsh upper mids or highs, just pumps more energy into sensitive areas. That definitely speeds up fatigue. Rodrigo's guide strongly suggests leaning towards subtractive EQ.
So cutting instead of boosting?
Yeah, often it's more effective anyway. Carve out space, remove moed or annoying resonances rather than just adding more level. It's usually cleaner and way less taxing on your ears. Yeah. And also, just consciously take breaks from that specific task. Step away from the intense frequency focus for a bit.
That's really good advice. Less boosting, more cutting, take breaks from the EQ itself. Any other quick wins for habits?
Definitely. The guy mentions Lisa, a mastering engineer. She implemented all this stuff, regular breaks, moderate volume, mindful EQ, and found her stamina went way up and her masters got better.
Wow.
Another great tip, use reference tracks. Switch between your mix and a pro track you know really well. It totally resets your perspective, gives your ears a benchmark.
Yeah, I need to do that more.
And one more thing, maybe less obvious. Watch the caffeine and nicotine. Too much can actually make your hearing a bit more sensitive, meaning fatigue might set in faster.
Didn't think about that. Okay, lots of good habits there. So we've got the personal habits covered. But what about the room, the gear? Does my actual home studio setup, like the physical space, make a difference with ear fatigue?
Oh, absolutely. It's huge, maybe more than people think. Think about it. If your room has bad acoustics, lots of echoes and reflections, it smears the sound. It creates phase issues, muddies things up. So what do? You turn up the volume to try and hear the details through the mush.
Ah, right back to the volume problem.
Exactly. So tackling room acoustics is fundamental, and it doesn't have to be super expensive initially. Even some basic DIY acoustic panels, rock wool or fiberglass are great. They absorb sound really well, can make a massive difference in taming those reflections and harshness.
Okay, so where do I put them? Just slap them on the walls.
Ideally, not just randomly. Focus on the first reflection points. It sounds technical, but it's simple. Sit in your mixing spot. Imagine mirrors on the walls and ceiling around you. Wherever you'd see your speakers reflected in those mirrors, those are your first reflection points.
Okay, I can visualize that.
Treat those spots first. That's where sound bounces directly from the speaker to your ear, causing the most immediate confusion and smearing. Treating them cleans up the sound massively so your ears don't have to work so hard.
Got it. First reflections. So room treated. What about the speakers themselves, the monitors?
Yeah, next up. Your monitors? You want ones that are accurate, meaning they give you a relatively flat, honest sound, not hyped bass or treble. And importantly, they need to be right for your room size. Big speakers in a tiny room just creates more problems, especially with bass buildup.
Right, makes sense.
And placement. Always the equilateral triangle setup. Your head and the two speakers form the points of an equal-sided triangle. That puts you right in the sweet spot for the best stereo image and balance.
Okay. And headphones. We use them a lot for detail work, right? But can they make fatigue worse?
They're essential for detail, yeah. The guide actually suggests open back headphones.
Open back?
Yeah, they generally sound more natural, less in your head, and they don't build up as much pressure on your ear, so they tend to be less fatiguing for longer stretches. And this is but they're not great for judging low end accurately because the bass leaks out.
Yeah.
So use them for details, checking reverb, tails, clicks, pops, that kind of thing. But maybe not for final bass balance.
Good distinction. Okay. Anything else on the gear setup front?
Yeah, one last thing. Don't forget your physical comfort. A decent ergonomic chair, having your screen and keyboard at the right height, it reduces physical strain. And when you're less physically tired, you're less mentally tired and less likely to get auditorily fatigued too. It's all connected. The guide mentions Mark, who upgraded his room treatment and monitors and found he could suddenly mix for hours longer without that ear burnout. Small changes, big impact.
Okay, we've got the basics of fatigue, smart habits, optimizing the studio. So thinking longer term now, are there other proactive, protective things we should be doing? Even when we're not mixing?
Yeah, absolutely. This moves into preserving your hearing health for the long haul. Beyond the session habits, seriously consider getting custom-molded musicians' earplugs.
Not just the foam one.
No, these are totally different. Foam plugs just block sound, often unevenly, muffling the highs. Musicians' plugs have special filters inside that reduce the volume evenly across all frequencies. So everything sounds quieter, but still clear and balanced.
Huh, that sounds amazing.
They're an investment for sure, but invaluable if you go to concerts, play live, or even just practice loud instruments. Protects your hearing without sacrificing clarity.
Okay, custom plugs. What else in just daily life?
Think about your general health. Sounds basic, but being dehydrated can actually make ear fatigue worse. So drink plenty of water, especially during long sessions.
Right, water.
Also, manage your stress. High stress levels can actually increase your sensitivity to sound and make you more prone to auditory strain. And here's a little tip. Maybe try a white noise app during your breaks sometimes. It can help mask annoying background sounds and give your ears a truly quiet, restful period, like a palate cleanser for your ears.
A palate cleanser for ears. I like that. Okay, but this brings up a really important, maybe slightly scary question.
Yeah.
What if you're already dealing with persistent stuff? When do you need to stop trying DIY fixes and actually go see a doctor?
This is so crucial. Do not ignore persistent symptoms, ever. Your hearing is precious. If you consistently have tinnitus, that ringing, buzzing, hissing sound in your ears, or if you notice muffled hearing that doesn't clear up quickly after you stop mixing, or if you feel actual pain in your ears, you need to get it checked out professionally. Don't wait.
Who do you see? Your regular doctor?
You typically see an audiologist. They specialize in hearing tests and hearing health, or an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
Yeah.
They can properly diagnose what's going on. The guide shares this really sobering story about David, a producer who had tinnitus for years and just thought, it's part of the job.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he waited too long and eventually found out he had permanent, irreversible hearing damage. Early intervention could have made a huge difference. Your ears are literally your career, your passion. Protecting them has to be priority number one. Seriously.
Wow. Okay, so we have really taken a deep dive today using Rodrigo Marquez's long session survival guide from Home Studio Start as our map. We've unpacked what ear fatigue actually is, those sneaky symptoms.
Yeah, and crucially, those practical habits, the breaks, the volume levels, the smart EQ choices.
Right, plus optimizing your room and gear, and those proactive steps like musicians' plugs and knowing when to seek help.
The bottom line, really, is pretty clear, isn't it? You can mix for long periods without wrecking your hearing or your mixes. It just takes being mindful, being proactive. By adopting these strategies, you really are safeguarding your most valuable asset. You can extend your mixing stamina, keep making music you love for years and years to come.
Absolutely. Your ears, they're irreplaceable tools for your creativity. So listening to all this, what's the one thing that really stands out to you? Maybe think about one change, just one you can commit to this week. Is it setting that break timer, checking your monitoring level, using a reference track?
Just pick one to start.
Exactly. Go forth and mix responsibly, armed with this knowledge. We really hope this deep dive has been a valuable shortcut to being well-informed.